Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Carnage and myself, Crota, here on Steps of War. I am the blue Terran player spawning over here on the north-hand side, over here at the 2 o'clock position of Steps of War. Meanwhile, my opponent Carnage spawning as the red Protoss player all the way on the other side across the map as red Protoss at the 7 o'clock position right now. So pretty much a standard opening We're gonna go ahead and see how this game really unfolds. Let's see, the things that I really wanted to talk about in particular. Recently, I really liked getting the orbital command at 16 when I had 12 to 13 SCVs. It really gives you a boost in terms of your macro and your economics, and it helps kind of catch you up against the queen inject larva if they try to produce drones, or the chrono boost from the Protoss player if they in fact could try to produce probes. So pretty much a standard build right now. The chrono boost has been toned down just a little bit, making it so that it only lasts 20 seconds instead of 30. We have a probe now moving out to the north-hand side, gonna do some scouting. At about the same time, my SCV is gonna move out and scout. The probe, both armies sitting at about 13 food each. I had 12 probes compared to my 11 SCVs. So pretty much similar builds all the way around. Gonna go ahead and finish off this front door with a supply depot in this position. Probe now gonna be running into my base, and seeing that I am in fact going for an early refinery. Looking at my opponent's base, Carnage is not going for a Vespian Geyser yet, going for a single gateway, not a dual gateway, using that chrono boost on those probes, so I don't have to really worry about any quick zealot rushes, no secondary gateway. So just trying to figure out what the strategies are going to be. Gonna go ahead and drop down the supply depot just in time so that that probe is unable to really get in anywhere. That probe wants to start trying to fight this SCV. I'm gonna go ahead and move back into a different position in a moment, down to 40 hit points, but out comes a Marine, and that Marine's gonna shoot down that probe without any true issues there, so I'm able to take down his scouting probe. Meanwhile, Carnage now getting that first gateway up and getting that assimilator and dropping down an additional pylon. I'm waiting for that cybernetics core. I want to see if he's going to go for cybernetics core, and in fact does go for a cybernetics core, not a secondary gateway. So that lets me know that I should be building Marauders instead of Reapers at this point in the game. SCV still running around that map a little bit more, trying to do as much scouting as the game progresses. Secondary barracks finally being built by myself. Gonna go ahead and add a reactor core to that. Lately I've been playing with dual barracks, one with a tech lab, one with a reactor core, because that really helps out the game and the game progress. Those Marauders really being able to focus on those stalkers, and those Marines being able to just deal a lot of that damage. Your tech is really based upon a lot of gas, so spending that extra minerals is very, very important. I'm able to bring back my scouting SCV, and gonna go ahead and bring him back into my base right here. So I have a single Marauder and a single Marine. My opponent has 20 probes compared to my 16 SCVs, but what that one mule is almost effectively 6 additional mining units, so that's very, very strong. Coming back in this position, I'm getting that secondary refinery. In order to get more gas. Mule is still gathering up as much as possible. Looking at this base over here, I was able to see that he was dropping in a photon cannon or a forge, so I know that in fact I cannot do any harassment because of this early forge, and that's going to change my strategy just a little bit more. Carnage pretty much still sitting in his base, getting stalkers, so lots of stalkers being produced. Those stalkers dealing 8 plus 6 damage versus armored units. So stalkers versus marauders, they both get that extra bonus damage, but those marauders dealing more damage, 20 damage per attack as opposed to just 14, and those marines will also be there to try to finish up and round out that damage. I'm going for a factory now, so dual barracks with that single factory trying to produce perhaps some siege tanks, some Hellions, both different units. A probe was trying to come up my wall and try to see exactly what I had, but I did not want to let him know, so I quickly destroyed it with those Marauders and those Marines, still producing as many Marines as I can from this dual factory. The orbital command charges. You pretty much, whenever that mule dies, and you have enough energy for an additional orbital command. I forgot to set the affinity on this game, so if there's a little bit of lag, I apologize. I'll go ahead and fix that in the next replay. Secondary gateway now coming in. We have a couple of stalkers currently in the base as well. right, and also he's getting that robotics facility. So single gateway with the robotics facility, getting that secondary gateway, and now getting the Twilight Council. So he is in fact splitting up his tech just a little bit more. A robotics facility most likely for immortals in order to counter those marauders, and also that Twilight Council perhaps for zealot charge, and perhaps High Templars and Dark Templars. Now getting that starport down, so I want that starport in order, and gonna try to drop down a medevac if I can, in order to get some additional healing out there. Now gonna go ahead and send out this SCV once again. This SCV, I wanna check if there's any units coming in. I also have a couple Reapers, just one or two Reapers, two Reapers, in order to, if he has a very good balance of Zealots and Stalkers, I want to be able to really fight this back. This army is sitting with 12 food, now moving out. I have an SCV coming into here, and I'm going to quickly see that he quickly takes that down and building that Nexus. So I have an idea that he is trying to do an expansion right now. So with that expansion down, I know that I'm going to be able to mass up more units, trying to get a medevac in the air and trying to get some Marines as well, perhaps some Hellions as well, along with that siege tech. I want to try to push with this army, build a bunker in this position as well, just in case he tries to push through. As soon as I saw this Nexus, I should realize that my army size should be in fact larger than him. He's sitting at 40 or 40 over 50. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at 50 over 51. So I do indeed have that larger army right now because I was able to produce more units and not slow it down with the building a command center. Now that command center finally being out, 22 SCVs versus 22 probes. But with that mule, I've been able to gather up more units. Marines now just sitting in here, and I'm going to go ahead and move them out. Right now, still do not have any research. Oh, researching stim packs and gonna get that combat shield later on. Medevac, not enough gas. This is such a gas-intensive strategy in order to try to get siege tanks and medevacs and marines. Just trying to figure out what exactly the good balance would be at this point. This is a very, very sizable army. Going to be trying to run into this sizable army right here, where there's a couple cannons and 3 immortals and 3 stalkers and a single zealot. Those 3 immortals counting for 12 food. Those immortals will be able to focus down that siege tank very quickly and just destroy it with its amazing 50 damage against armored units. Those immortals just deal so much damage. So Immortals are very strong with a range of 5. Siege tanks, in fact, have a range of 7, so they can deal more damage before those Immortals get into range. So I'm going to come up into this position, try to figure out what the strategy is. I do a scout, or I do a orbital command and a scanner sweep, and figure out that he is currently sitting in this position. Now getting some probes and transferring some probes down, and getting some photon cannons to try to protect that front door. I realize I have 2 siege tanks, but I can't find the secondary one because it's kind of hiding underneath that medevac, and I can't really select on it. I'm trying to highlight this and figure out where it is, and I now getting that secondary medevac in that air and getting some more marauders as well. So a very decent army size for me. I'm sitting at 67 over 78. Opponent is sitting at 59 over 60, but I think his unit counters are a little bit more stronger than I am. Secondary siege tank now moving out, gonna go ahead and siege, and that is just close enough to engage right there. So able to do a couple pop shots towards that attack, trying to deal damage towards those units, and that siege tank now no longer in range of those photon cannons or that pylon. I really want to be able to just move and push in at this point. I should probably unsiege that back tank. There is an observer overhead in my base, as I have that secondary orbital command center already built, building some SCVs and transferring them over here. Sitting at 75 over 78, opponent sitting at 68 over 68, but his reinforcements will be coming out much more quickly. Here comes that attack right now, trying to deal as much damage, but there are 2 Dark Templars in this position, and that's going to be a problem for me in this fight right now. Gonna go ahead and pause this replay as soon as it lets me, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause this replay. Stay tuned for part 2 of what I expect to be a 3-part replay, or probably a 2-part replay between Carnage and myself here on Steps of War.